So last night I had one of those moments where I needed to rearrange all of my furniture. It just had to happen. Otherwise I was not going to be able to sleep. I just needed the change. I was just getting bored looking at the same thing every day. So I decided to rearrange and pretty much make this space my office area slash, I don't know, filming area, if you will. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I mean, I like having all my stuff in that little area. I could just easily reach for it. I like it. I do. I like it. I'm looking at it in the frame right here, and I don't know why. I just feel like there's something missing. Like, it's just not, it's like I can't put my finger on it, but it's just, it needs something. You know what? Give me a minute. Ah yes, much better. I'm happy with that. Okay, you know what? Let me change my shirt. Right, so the reason that we are all here today is for me to give you my 7 tips for making your travel day go much smoother. For those of you who are new to my channel, you might not know that I used to be a flight attendant. I was a flight attendant for 2 years, and in those 2 years, I flew for a domestic airline, which means I just stayed within the United States and flew there. And then during my 2nd year, I flew for an international airline, which was my favorite of the 2. Nonetheless, I have a lot of experience with short flights and long flights. So these are my 7 tips to make your travel day go much smoother. When I was a flight attendant, I used to notice a lot of passengers who were just in a very bad mood because of whatever happened to them at TSA, or, you know, their bags got lost or what have you. I understand, I get it, but I would always think to myself, like, why are they so mad? Like, what could possibly make somebody that mad? Like, don't they understand that air travel has so many things that could go wrong in the day? Like, why is it not a more expected thing among travelers? And so I realized it was because most people had an expectation that their travel day was gonna go a certain way. They would wake up, they would get dressed, they would go to the airport, they would get on the plane and fly to their destination with no problem. But rarely is this the case. And so I'm not saying every time you go to the airport something bad happens, but I think most people just don't have that expectation in their head that, like, something could go wrong today and I need to be okay and prepared for that. So that leads me to my first point of this video, is to let go of expectations. So when you wake up that morning, get dressed and know that, you know what, something could go wrong today, but I'm gonna be as prepared as possible in case it does go wrong. For example, if a flight gets delayed or you end up having to connect somewhere else because due to bad weather in, you know, another city, you're gonna have to be flexible and understand that that's a thing. It's a thing in air travel. So the best thing that you can do to be prepared for a situation like that is to bring entertainment. So that's my second point. Bring something that you know will keep you busy for hours, will keep you mentally busy. Listen to music, bring an iPad, bring a Kindle, bring a book, bring a journal. Bring something that you may spend hours of your time in, because not only could your flight be delayed, you could be grounded, meaning nobody's flying out due to bad weather. So you could be sitting in an airport for 5+ hours on top of having to get on your plane and fly, you know, however long the distance is of your flight. So just make sure that you bring entertainment, and that brings me to, well, point B in this point is to bring chargers. So if you're bringing any kind of electronics to keep yourself occupied, make sure you bring chargers to charge them, because a lot of times in airports, especially when there's like ground, you know, all planes are grounded or whatever, the charging stations are usually pretty packed. So you just want to make sure that you have a plan B, that you've got your own thing going and you don't have to go find a wall or an outlet to sit next to for the next however many hours. Tip number 3, put your electronics in a very accessible place, because when you get to TSA, they are going to ask you to take it out and put it in a separate bin. Don't be that guy that has his laptop tucked away in between his clothes in, his carry-on bag, and he's holding up the line because he's got to unpack it and he's got to put it in a bin, and then he has to put it back in his suitcase. Just don't be that guy, Just be prepared and know that TSA is going to ask you to put your electronics in a separate bin, because they have to examine it that way through the little x-ray thing. I don't know what it's called. Keep it in the most accessible pocket, so as soon as you get into that security line, I got to take out my electronics, I got to take off my shoes and my belt and whatever else that they normally ask you to do. Be prepared. Tip number 4 is a pretty cliche one, but is give yourself a safety net of time. Now, most people go overboard with this and say that you have to get to the airport 3 hours before your flight, otherwise, you could miss it. And I mean, it's true, that's good to be prepared, but sometimes you just get there way too early, and you're the only one going through security, and then you gotta wait at your gate for like 2 hours. So depending on the time of day, if it's one of the first flights of the day, you don't need to get there that early because security lines are just opening. So just use common sense, and you don't have to go crazy with the amount of allotted time that you give yourself before a flight. Just make sure it makes sense with the time of day and how far you're flying. Yeah, just use common sense. Check in on your phone. So many people, for whatever reason, don't realize that you can actually check in on your phone. So whatever airline you're flying with, make sure to download that app on your phone, and then you can get your boarding pass on your phone, and you won't have to take that extra time at the airport to check in manually and get your printed boarding pass like we're in the 1950s. They do that in the 1950s? If you have an iPhone, you can actually add it to your wallet. So it'll be right there for whenever. It'll have a barcode, so when you go to security, all you have to do is give them your ID and your phone, and you're good to go. Next tip is to think about meal times. Now, I know this sounds super duh, but I can't tell you how many times I have flown and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get breakfast at the airport, it's fine, and I don't eat before I leave the house, and then I get to the airport and there's a freaking long line in Starbucks, and everywhere else is closed still, and then you get to your gate and you're like, you know what, fine, I'll just eat on the plane, and then they don't serve food on that plane, and then you get to your connection city, and you literally only have 10 minutes between connections before your next flight leaves, so you end up not eating all day. That has happened so many times to me, and so eventually I got in the habit of preparing my meals according to my flight times. So the night before, I would look at my schedule, and then I would plan, okay, I'm gonna eat before I leave the house, I'm gonna stop at Dunkin' really quick in Atlanta before I have to take my next flight to Charlotte or wherever you're flying. Just think about those things before, or just bring food, just make sure it's sealed in your suitcase, not unopened, and you should be able to get it through TSA, I think. I'm not sure if that's just a flight attendant thing, but look it up. Don't get hangry. You don't want to be that guy that's just aggravated all day because you haven't eaten. Next tip is to bring sanitary wipes, meaning hand sanitizer, but the wipes kind. Because the hand sanitizer, they probably might not let you take it in with you unless it's in your toiletry bag, and then that's usually in your big suitcase. Just bring the wipes, those you should be able to get through security, and you really want to use them on the tray tables. I'm telling you guys, I was a flight attendant. Those tray tables are not clean. A lot of the times the cleaning crew will only have a certain amount of minutes before they have to board the next flight. So they're really just picking up trash and doing the basic kind of cleaning. They're not really wiping down every table. Okay, that happens once in a blue moon if the flight crew or the cleaning crew has enough time. Bring wipes. Just trust me, you'll want to wipe that down. You don't want to get sick, okay? You don't want to get sick. Next tip, don't take your shoes off on a plane. Why do people do this? I don't understand, it's so gross. Would you take your shoes off on the freaking New York City subway, or on a public bus, or on a train? No, right? You wouldn't. I don't understand why people think that planes are clean. They're not. And especially planes, because they're carpet and people throw up on planes. A lot of the time they don't make it to that little bag thing that's in front that they're supposed to throw up in. Don't take your shoes off. It's gross. I've seen some stuff. You don't want to take your shoes off. Last tip, don't drink the coffee or the tea. Just don't. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you take my advice and you think a little bit more about certain scenarios that could happen on your travel day and then prepare for them as much as possible. Being prepared like this will ensure that your frustration level is at a low and that you're going into the day prepared for whatever might come your way. You're just in a good mood when you're prepared like that. You go to the airport, you're like, you know what? I'm ready for this day. Whatever comes at me, I got this. So I hope that this video finds you well and that you have a great trip wherever you're going. Happy travels, and give this video a like if it was helpful, and if you want me to make more travel videos regarding tips and advice from a former flight attendant. That is really hard to say, from a former blah, blah, blah. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.